to the She Will Shine podcast, where we bring you the real stories of female business owners. My name is Danielle Price and I'm the founder of She Will Shine, a supportive business network for women. It's time to give a voice to women in business and discover their journey.
Hi everyone and welcome to the She Will Shine podcast. Today I am very excited to introduce you to the lovely Nicola Dore. How are you, Nicola?
I'm very well, thank you.
That's great. It's great to have you here. Nicola is the founder and digital marketing specialist at Arcane agency. Nicola helps marketing professionals to upskill in the digital era, and she's also one of our fabulous She Will Shine members. So we're going to go way back to high school days, Nicola. Mm-hmm. What were your career aspirations way back then?
It's everyone always laughs when I say what I wanted to be because they were very different to where I am now. So I always wanted to either be a heart surgeon or a lawyer, and obviously, not something that happened.
We could be very lucky that didn't happen, or
I think that people all around should be very happy I'm not operating on hearts, to be honest.
You were a country girl growing up in Gippsland. What did you decide to do once you hit year 12?
Yeah, so I guess in year 12 I kind of had a year where I was had always had in mind what I wanted to be, and then I got halfway through year 12 and I was like, oh, actually I don't know what I want to do anymore. I'd always worked from the day I could, so I sort of had always been juggling work and school, and got quite used to that. I ended up getting into a few courses and thinking, I don't know that this is what I want. I couldn't get my head around letting go of the freedom of having money and having to be a poor uni student. So in the end I decided to get a full-time job and do uni part-time.
So what was the course that you ended up getting into?
So I ended up doing events and marketing. So I ended up initially, I went down the events path, and marketing events, but doing a lot more of the operational side of events, which I think, I was really passionate about. I absolutely loved it. As I got older, I realised that my liver probably couldn't keep up with doing just the event side. So I ended up transitioning more into the marketing side as I sort of progressed through.
Yep. Did you enjoy the marketing side more than the events?
Look, I think anyone that's worked in events, there's like a buzz that you get that you sort of can't get from anything else. I'm quite strategically minded, so I think the marketing side and the analytical side really suited me, but I still have days where I think, I wish I could just be back running events. And I think that's why a lot of my clients are events, and I still work on events, more only doing the marketing, but being able to sit in the operational meetings and that's the stuff, I still get a bit of a buzz from being on site during an event.
So was this all in Gippsland? You went to uni and things, and you worked, or did you move from Gippsland?
So I lived in Gippsland, moved to Berwick, which is in between Gippsland and Melbourne. But most of the work that I did was in Gippsland, and then after that I moved to Queensland for a few years. And once I was in Queensland, it was much more of a marketing role. I didn't get to do many events up there, but it was kind of a first taste, I guess, to starting to get involved in more of the digital space.
Going from Gippsland to Berwick and then to Queensland, was each of those moves like a growing thing for you personally? Do you feel like you kind of each move you made?
Yeah, definitely. When I moved to Queensland, I moved up there on my own, so I didn't have family and friends or anything around me. So it was, definitely a real growing space, but I was ready for a change. I wanted some warmer weather, and a job opportunity came up there. So I thought, oh, why not? I'm still young enough to do it. I may as well, give it a try. So, it was really great because I met some really fantastic people up there that I'm still really good friends with. Got to do a lot of traveling around Queensland. It was actually interesting because I do find their work ethic in Queensland is very different to Victoria. So, your 9 to 5 actually was 9 to 5. If you were still in the office at 5:30, people were like, "What's wrong with you? Are you sick or something?"
Okay.
And you would be kicked out.
I like this work ethic.
It was so bizarre. And like, I was so used to, my job always started at 9, but you were always there a lot earlier. But, that just wasn't acceptable. The doors were locked and you couldn't get in. And even, just walking somewhere, I remember my boss, we were walking to a meeting and he was like, "Why are you always in such a rush? Just relax and strong." I'm like, "What do you mean? This is my normal pace." So it was really, really different up there. And after about 18 months, I kind of started thinking, if I don't move back to Melbourne, I don't know that I'm going to actually be able to go back to like that
point of no return.
Yeah. So after about 18 months, I thought it's time to move back. Otherwise, I may not be able to to operate at that level anymore.
So did you come back to another job, or did you come back before you had secured something else?
Yeah, no, I did come back to another job. So I worked in racing just before I moved up to Queensland. And a new role had been created there, which was actually a tourism marketing role, which was really interesting because it was basically working with small communities to try and increase overnight stays and visitation into the region around their major cup day. So something I was really passionate about, being able to showcase these small regional towns and, help the small businesses and tourism and everything.
So the industries that even though you're in the events and tourism industry, the industries that you worked in were varied, is that correct?
Yes, yep. So I worked, I've sort of worked in a few different industries, so racing a few times. I seem to, go back there for some reason.
The love of horses?
And I think, there's nothing that beats that event atmosphere over spring racing carnival and that sort of thing. So, and then also conferences. I did a lot of conferences and exhibitions and that kind of thing, which was really good as well. And when you're working on those sorts of events, they're kind of like, mini businesses where you're doing everything from setting the budgets to all the marketing and promotion and then actually rolling it all out. So so they're always fun. I got to work on CHOGM, which is the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which was an absolute eye-opener. But yeah, that was a really great experience. Exhausting, and I think I was probably the first time ever that I was broken after an event, but we all pretty much were. But yeah, an amazing experience that I certainly wouldn't ever take back from having done that.
So a career highlight, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I think just, operationally it was so different. You were working with so many different organisations, even the security was just next level. And it happened to fall in the period where Julia Gillard and Kevin Rudd were sort of fighting over the leadership. So I still remember with the handbooks, we were having to do the Prime Minister's address, 2 versions, because we didn't know. Being in Perth, you can't get things quickly, and we didn't know who would actually be the Prime Minister on the day. So that, just little things like that was very different. But yeah, it was great. And then I flew back from Perth on the red eye and got married the next day. So
wow. So at what point, because you're racing in Victoria, at what point did you go to Perth?
So I was still living in Melbourne at that stage, but pretty much living at a hotel in Perth.
Okay. So in Perth for work, for the event.
Yes, So that when I left racing and went to work for MCI, which is an international meetings and events organisation. They do a lot of conferences. So that involved a lot of travel. And
And then back for the wedding.
And back for the wedding, which I must say, I don't remember a great deal of it, to be honest. I was that tired.
I hope Happy doesn't listen to our podcast.
I know, it's all right. He knows. He was literally just like a vacant, just a shell. I'd done my dress fitting. I think I'd done that 6 weeks before the wedding, knowing that I wouldn't get to do it again. Hadn't eaten for 2 weeks properly because we were just living on wine and cheese and crackers in between, catching a couple of hours sleep. And so I got back and I was double-sided taping my dress onto me on the day and just hoping that the wind was kind.
And I hope it was. Please tell me it was.
No,
Thank God for that.
I ended up, we upgraded and got the double-sided tape from the hardware shop just to be sure.
Nice. You need the strong stuff.
Yeah.
You don't want a wardrobe malfunction on your wedding day.
No, you do not. Not something the family needs to see.
So was hubby from Melbourne?
No, he was actually from Dunkeld. So we both grew up in the country and moved to the city, and that's what pretty much brought us to Geelong, was that having both brought up in the and growing up in the country, once we'd had the boys, we realised just how small our backyard in Melbourne was, and decided to move to Geelong as a happy medium for having some more space but still being able to get to Melbourne easily for work and that sort of thing.
So how many years have you been in Geelong now?
So I think 4 years it's coming up to, I think. We were trying to work it out the other day, but yeah, I think it's nearly 4 years.
Yeah. And at what point did the kids come along?
So they came along while we were still in Melbourne. So that was when I was working for the conferencing. And yeah, that was kind of, having my eldest, who's turning 8 in a couple of months, was a real, I guess, shock to the system. You lose a lot of that freedom and ability to just do things when you want to. And it became pretty clear straight away that I wouldn't be able to return to my old job, because traveling and, a baby does not go very well together. There was a level of flexibility there, but there wasn't the flexibility of not being able to travel, or not, you could be part-time for a little while, but you had to go back to full-time and that sort of thing. So yeah, it was it was disappointing, I guess, that I couldn't go back, but then, it led to so many other things. So that was great.
Were you upset at that point? Did you have to kind of choose between your family and your job? Did you feel that pressure?
I did a little bit, but I sort of think as well that it was a bit of a blessing, because I had always wanted to work for myself, and I'd always wanted to, have my own business. So I feel like it kind of forced me to take that step that I hadn't done with having the security of having a job. It was sort of that push that I needed, I guess, to be able to do it. And I still do some consulting for them every now and then.
So you said that you always wanted to start your own business. Was that like as a young child, or did that kind of come as you were working in industry?
I think I always, in the back of my mind, thought that I'd like to work for myself. And like, even as a kid, I was always trying to look for ways to raise money, or, like I'd clean my nana's house and clean like her friends' houses before I was allowed to legally work, and they'd give me $8 cash to.
I love that you remember the number, because it was such a huge deal. Yeah.
It was such a big deal, and to have that $8 was like, wow, this is great. So I think I always had in the back of my mind that that's what I really wanted to do, and I just didn't have that, I guess, the push to force me to do it, because there was always that fear of, oh, what if it doesn't work, or what if I can't pay my bills, or that sort of thing. Whereas sort of having the job taken away from you in a way was actually a really good thing.
A blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
So did you know that you wanted to go down the marketing path with your business at that point?
I was fairly certain that was the path that I wanted to go down. But there was still like part of me that really does love events, and was sort of still keen to keep a little bit of, a foot in the door with events. But then events aren't great for families either. So, marketing was a more logical choice, because you can do it. Like even now with homeschooling and stuff like that, I can still, work at night and get everything done that needs to happen. I don't have to be, stuck 9 to 5 or dictated hours. It's a lot more flexible than anything else.
So how old were your kids when you decided to start the digital agency?
So Max was 8 months. So I got my first client when he was 8 months old. So I would work around his naps. Not that he napped very often. He was one of those.
Oh, I had one of them. Yep. My second was like that.
Yeah. So if he would nap, or I would would do it after he went to bed at night time, or when my husband got home, he would take over the bouncing him on the ball, and I would get some work done. So it was nice to be able to use my brain again, I guess, and still, I remember driving him around to try and get him to sleep during the day, and then just using my phone to dictate into, and then sort of retyping it afterwards and that sort of thing.
Did you find the transition hard, or because you have a strong work ethic, you kind of found it easy to sort of jump straight back into working?
Yeah, I think I was really lucky in that I didn't have the challenges that I know a lot of other business owners that I talk to. They have problems with, oh no, I get distracted by doing the washing, or I get distracted with all the little things that have to be done. So on my work day, I don't actually get that much work done. I think because I had that work ethic and I really wanted to be working, for me, that was more of a release. And, to be honest, I'm not the best housekeeper. I hate housework. So it was very, very easy for me to be like, oh no, I've got to work. I can't do the washing.
I know what I'd rather do.
Yeah. And look, I think, the bonus is as well, if you find something that you're passionate about and you love, it is a lot easier to tune out all of that peripheral stuff that needs to be done, but, can wait, I guess.
Yeah. And did you find that you're suddenly working on your own? Where obviously, in the events industry, you're working in a team. So was that something that you struggled with initially, or was it something that you actually enjoyed because you were the boss and you could set the rules of how things went?
I definitely did miss working with people. I was really lucky with a couple of the clients that I got early on. They were very inclusive, and I was kind of like part of the team. And I think that's even now with having more of an agency rather than sort of more of a freelance contractor role, I still find a lot of my clients bring me in almost like part of the team. So I'll still sit in on, Zoom calls if they're doing strategy sessions, or, they'll always jump on the phone to ask my opinion on different things. So I think I've been really blessed that way. I know over the years I've gone through stages of like, oh, I think I need a business partner. I want someone that I can work with and, bounce ideas off and that sort of thing. And then, you see all the horror stories of business partners breaking up and how messy it all gets. And I'm like, oh, actually, I'm probably blessed that I don't. And I'm really lucky that I've got Claire, who I actually met through Inner West Mums and Bubs group years ago, working with me at the moment. And it's really nice. We can just jump on Messenger. We're both mums. We both have really strong work ethics, but don't stick to the traditional 9 to 5 hours. So like we can jump on Messenger at any time of the day or night and just be chatting and touch base. And so it really feels like starting to get that team together is a nice way. Yeah.
Do you think that subconsciously you kind of created that because of working in teams previously?
Yeah, I think so. I think, it can get lonely working on your own. And that's why groups like She Will Shine, and what you've set up there is just fantastic, that even though you don't see everyone on a daily basis, you can just jump in that Facebook group if you're having a bad day, or if you just need someone else's opinion, or you think, oh, am I actually, is this the right decision or not? You can jump in and, chat to other women who are in business and in very similar situations. So I think for business owners, that's probably something quite critical, is to find your network. And, whether it's a free or a paid network, find where your people are. And, right from day one, that's probably one of the first things that I would do now. I didn't probably have that when I first started my business. I had like different Facebook groups that I was in, but everyone was in really different stages of their life. There wasn't, that really core group of just, business women. So yeah, if you can find something where there's a lot of, other business owners, and they don't have to be obviously in the same industry, but finding somewhere where you can hang out and just talk to someone who actually gets it, who's homeschooling and juggling their own business and, has all those pressures, then, it makes life a lot easier and you don't feel so lonely.
How did you find, starting your own business, suddenly you had to put yourself out there? How did you find that? Was that something that you were comfortable with?
Look, I think that was probably the hardest thing that I found. And, particularly someone coming from a marketing background, I found it really hard to market myself. And even now, I find that I can be really inconsistent, I guess, with my social media and that sort of stuff, because, I get so wrapped up in the client stuff that I forget about my own. But, it's a bit of that practice what you preach. It's something that I definitely need to do more of. And look, I have been extremely lucky that a lot of my work comes via referrals. So I haven't had to be, as actively seeking work, and I feel really, really lucky for that. But yeah, it is definitely something I struggle with, and, need to make more of an effort, particularly because, I am in marketing and I can't, and I really
it's like the mechanic that drives the bomb.
It is. I always refer to myself as like the plumber's wife, everything's leaking and, but, give me anything remotely for a client, I'm like, oh, let's do this and this and this. But yeah, when it comes to myself, I'm like, oh, I don't know, how should I say that?
Yeah. How many years have you been in business for yourself now?
So nearly 8 years. So it's been a really long time. And yeah, I go through good patches of being really proactive, and then other times where I'm just don't do a lot at all. And probably now I outsource a lot more of the stuff that I know that I'm not good at. I'd rather pay someone to do things for me than to try and battle through it now, because you just get so caught up in it and it's a spiral. So now I'm like, right, I'll just outsource anything that I can't do or that takes me too long. I'm just going to outsource it.
Yeah. What do you think over the last 8 years in particular has been the biggest challenge for you?
For me, I think it was, I think it was more internally my own problem with what I wanted to be doing and what I thought the expectations on me were, plus also juggling the kids. So obviously I'd started when they were really young. So, going through what, all mums do with the daycare days, where they go for a few days and then they're home for a couple of weeks because they're sick and then they're back again. I was probably really hard on myself about that. And I also really wanted to balance being a mum and also having a business, and wanting to find that, nirvana space where I was everything to everyone. And there definitely isn't. And I think probably the last couple of years, I've really embraced the fact that, there is no nirvana. You're either going to be fully succeeding in one area and not the other. And it's all swings and roundabouts. One day you're the perfect mother, the next day you're the perfect business person.
I used to find when the kids were really young, I found it really frustrating because I had all these ideas in my head that I wanted to execute for the business. And when I was with the kids, it was just impossible to do that. And so I used to get really frustrated with myself about that. And then I put these self-imposed deadlines that were ridiculous, and nobody knew what the deadlines were. But for me, it was like, well, I've got to do this by this time. And I just had so much motivation and passion for what I was doing. But then the frustration came because I couldn't do it all at once.
Yes. And I think that is those early years, particularly, I think, when you do it the way, and I know most of us, that's how it happens. You have kids, you realise that you want to work for yourself and you start a business. So you've got these, all these extra infants. You've got an infant business, and then you've got your infant children. And, you're already sleep deprived from kids, and then you throw in working till 3 a.m. in the morning because you're trying to get these self-imposed deadlines done, and it just doesn't work. And, you get to that burnout place very quickly. And I find with business owners, that's kind of like, that line in the sand of, am I cut out for this or not? And you either learn that you have these burnout cycles and you learn to live with them, or you're like, right, there has to be a better way and try and,
yeah, that's right. It's again another point of no return. It's like you come to a crossroads. Like, okay, do I want this, or do I just want to go back to a 9 to 5 or looking after the kids? Yeah.
Exactly. And you know, I've seen it with a lot of people where they'll look, you know what, it is easier just to turn up to work, go home and shut off. You know, and there's no right answer. It's just what you can make work for your individual situation.
Yeah, that's right. I always find that no matter what your situation is, if you're working for yourself, if you're working for someone else, or if you've decided to look after kids full time, like each of them has their own sets of challenges.
Yeah,
it's not as though there's one option that's going to be easier than any of the others.
Yeah, and it is. And I think, and every one of us has our own level of guilt around it. Like if you're the stay-at-home mum, it's like, oh, I should be working. And if you know, working too hard, it's like, I should be at home with the kids. I think as women, we do. We put way too much pressure on ourselves for, you know, of what we think the expectation is that we should be able to do.
So now, you know, we've talked about one of the hardest things was for you professionally. What about like you had the career highlight with that event over in Perth?
Yeah.
What are the career highlights since you started your own business?
Yeah, so I think for me, like there's been so many different periods of time where I'm like, oh wow, this is, you know, I'm not going to be able to beat this, or but I think probably last year getting my own office, doing the rebrand, you know, setting up the training space so that I could, you know, do trainings and that sort of thing. I think that was like a really big turning point for me. And I think around that time as well, I kind of realised with the business and the way I was running it, I'd kind of just created like a job. So I'd sort of felt like I was in a bit of a prison, I suppose. And then I started working with a business coach who was like, right, well, you know, what do we need to do to solve this and to get the passion back, kind of thing, because it was very Groundhog Day. And yeah, then so changing into, you know, rebranding into an agency, having my own office space, it kind of felt like that bit of freedom again.
Did you feel like the business had grown up a little?
Yeah, I did. I felt like a real business owner finally. You know, I felt like, you know, I was finally legitimate. I had, you know, my place, I guess. And yeah, so it was a really big step, I think. And to be able to, you know, come to work. So I dropped the kids off at school, which is just around the corner from the office, you know, come into the office. But then at the end of the day, I could lock the door and it was done. And, you know, yes, I still worked on the couch with my laptop some nights, but I also didn't have to anymore. So
you were choosing whether or not you could. Yeah, it
was my choice rather than having to do it. So yeah, it was always in my 5-year plan, and it came, you know, a lot quicker than what I expected it to. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't change that at all. So yeah, that was probably the biggest thing.
Do you think that coincided with sort of a leap in your own confidence?
I think so. And I think I felt, you know, a brief bit of freedom with my youngest was at kinder. And I'd always said when the kids went to school that that's when I would sort of transition more into sort of full time and that sort of thing. But yeah, him going to kinder sort of felt like I had a bit more freedom, to have that time and that space that was just for me. Like I could drop the two of them off, and then it's like, oh, I actually don't have any children to run around after, and
there's no one hanging off me.
Yeah, and the hours were just that, you know, that little bit longer, and yeah, it was like, wow, this is what it feels like. this is that thing that everyone had been talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then this year obviously he started prep, and again it was that other shift. It's like 2 kids in the same place at the same time, can both go to school holiday program, and then obviously Corona came.
Yes.
So it has not been as planned, but I can see the potential. So yeah,
there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
There is, yes.
Yeah. And what do your boys say about you working? Do they ever say anything about
they
it?
always was like, oh yeah, mum has to work, or, you know, mum's very busy, or, you know, so they always do refer, and I have to watch that. They're on, oh, mum's always working, mum's always in a meeting. So I am a little bit more mindful of that now. And I think having the office space helps, because I do try not to get the laptop out when they're there unless I have to, and that kind of thing. They have also noted during this period that I don't do my hair and makeup as nice as what I usually do. So today, when I actually made an effort and put hair and makeup happening, they were like, oh, Mum, you look like yourself again. That's nice. We like that. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I get that with the lipstick. Mum, you're putting lipstick on. What are you doing?
Yeah. Are you going to work? Are you doing something special today? So, yes, I just want my kids to know that, there are different ways of doing things, and, there's no right or wrong. It's just whatever works for your individual situation.
Yeah. Do you think that your strong work ethic is being carried down to them? Do you know how you kind of see those little inklings of things when they're young, and the things that they're doing that you kind of think, oh yeah, they've got it in them, I'm doing an okay job here?
Yeah, my oldest is always like writing books and trying to sell them, and that sort of stuff, and talking about what he wants to do to get more pocket money and that sort of thing. So I think it's nice to know that he'll also be that. I am also mindful I don't want to create that workaholic thing, because I feel like sometimes I can go a bit overboard with my work hours. And, so I want to try and show them that there is that balance, that you don't have to be work all the time, that you can also enjoy the downtime as well. And they probably haven't seen that from me over, the last couple of years. And so I'm really mindful now that I want them to see that you can, switch off and have some family time, but then also have work time as well.
Yeah. It's interesting with my kids, before COVID hit, obviously, I was really mindful about, even though I have an office that's separate to the house, I was mindful about not working in the office while they were home.
Yes.
So when they were home, I was inside with them, and when they were at school, that's when I came into the office and did whatever I had to do work-wise. But now, because of the circumstance that we're all home all of the time, it's kind of that boundary has been blurred so severely that it's like, well, I don't have an option. This is what I do. This is how I do it. So, I think it's going to be interesting seeing what's on the other side of this, and how we kind of transition back into having those boundaries.
Yeah, I feel like that is going to be a real struggle, because, and even now, like the kids they'll see my laptop and they'll like roll their eyes. Oh, you're going to be working now. So like for them, this sort of seems like a bit of a holiday. And although they're finding it tough with not seeing their friends and going to school and stuff, it's kind of got that holiday vibe as well. So to see me trying to get on the laptop, they're like, but Mum, why don't you just play with us? Why don't you just do this? It's like, no, you're having your lunch break so Mummy can do some work. You go and play. This is your lunchtime. This is Mummy's work time. So yeah, that I think it's going to be hard to try and break those habits that have crept in of, jumping on the phone even though you could be doing something else and answering emails and that sort of thing.
So what do you foresee, like in the future? Where do you want to take the business? Do you want to grow into a larger agency? What would you like to see happen?
Yeah, so for me, just before all of this, I had started doing a lot more training. And I sort of see that as being where we transition to, is doing a lot more upskilling and training with marketing teams and small businesses. I think, and particularly it's been highlighted now, is that people actually need to be able to do certain things for themselves, or at least understand what's happening. So, so I sort of see that we'll probably, although it was probably 30% of what we did was the training side, I could see that probably growing to about 50% now. And we, over this last period, have transitioned a lot to helping businesses to go online and to actually, start, like a lot of our clients are bricks and mortar and they have never had even a website. And they've, all, basic social media. So, we've spent a lot of time helping them get online and doing ads, and they're seeing some great results on that. So I think, for us, it'll be that mix of, training for people that are already in the marketing space and sort of upskilling to that next level, and then also helping small businesses to keep ticking over and to come up with new ideas and strategies on how to, I guess, keep their businesses running when, things are a little bit more uncertain.
So are you disappointed that you didn't become the heart surgeon or the lawyer?
No, I don't think so.
So that's not around the corner?
No, I don't think so. I think there was a period when I moved to Queensland where I was like, maybe I'll go back to uni and do law. And then I was like, no, what am I thinking? I actually love what I do. So, there is no reason to change it. And, I'm lucky that with my industry, and it changes all the time. So I love learning, and I'm one of these people that is always reading a book or, trying to do a webinar or, doing online courses and stuff. So, this is the perfect industry for that because it changes every day. So I kind of get to feed that, that craving of knowledge and also being able to help people as well. So I think I found the perfect mix there.
Yeah, I was going to say, because they're both, even though they're very different, obviously, to what you do, they're both helping people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, I think I've been able to sort of, even though it wasn't the original plan, I've ended up, falling exactly where I need to be.
Yeah. It's a nice feeling, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And it's great to be able to wake up and be like, actually, I am in the right place. I'm not going to have a midlife crisis and decide that I need to, start from scratch. I'm actually, happy with where I am, which is nice.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for your time today, Nicola, especially around the home learning juggle that we've found ourselves in.
It's a nice break, actually.
And the fact that you've gone out of the house into the office.
Yes, yep, and to actually see another human and talk and
a real life adult.
No. I feel like that's been missing this week.
Yep. Anytime you want to Zoom me, just let me know.
Done. I'll be constantly like, are you free?
Awesome. Thank you again, Nicola. We'll chat to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.
And thanks everyone for joining us. We'll have another She Will Shine podcast episode with another inspiring woman in business very soon. See you later.
Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode of the She Will Shine podcast, we invite you to check out shewillshine.com.au. She Will Shine is the essential support network you need to grow a thriving, meaningful business. We can help you grow your network, connect and develop genuine relationships, be supported and support others in building and growing a successful business on your terms. Say goodbye to working alone and become a member at shewillshine.com.au.